and harness. Never, under any circumstances, use fall protection lanyards for anything but fall protection. Lanyards cannot be used to hoist equipment or for any other purpose. There are several types of lanyards, but it's not important to remember the different types. Your company will choose the type of lanyard that best fits your operations. Snap hooks connect the lanyard to your body harness. Connecting is easy by just connecting the snap hooks to the D-ring on your harness. The double-locking snap hooks are recommended. However, you may find some non-locking snap hooks which are being phased out by January 1998. One word of caution about snap hooks. Connect them only to the D-rings or anchor point. They cannot be connected directly to the harness webbing or other points, only a D-ring or anchor point. You should always use the proper snap hooks and D-rings of the same size and made by the same manufacturer, and always double-check the connection to make sure it's properly locked and in good condition. An anchorage point is the place where your lanyard is attached to a solid, unmovable object which can support up to 5,000 pounds. Keep in mind that you may weigh only 200 pounds, but once you begin to fall, that 200 pounds can turn into a couple thousand pounds of force depending on how far you fall and the speed of the fall. Another factor in fall protection safety is the swing factor. When considering tie-off or anchoring points, if you fall, how far will you swing from side to side? This is a pendulum effect at the end of a fall, which could cause you to hit something if you swing too far. Never anchor the lanyard to a guardrail or similar object. The anchor must be a solid, unmovable object that will support you in case of a fall. When anchored, you should be able to fall no more than 6 feet before you are slowed and stopped. If your lanyard is too short for the job, you must find another good anchorage point and not try to extend the length of the lanyard. As we discussed earlier, the fifth component of a fall protection system is knowledge. Be sure to know how your equipment works, how to properly inspect all components, and if you find something wrong with your equipment, don't use it. Tag it defective and replace it before you continue. Your equipment will work properly as it's designed to do only if it's in good condition and it's used properly. Another important factor in the knowledge component is to never take shortcuts and never fail to use your equipment when you're working at a level 6 feet or higher that requires fall protection. Certainly, fall protection systems can be awkward to use, and in some cases, your company may have to resort to other methods of fall protection. A warning line system for a controlled access zone may be put into effect. This controlled access zone could mean an area where certain work, such as overhand bricklaying, where fall protection may not be feasible. A restricted entrance to this area is implemented, and there is a warning line system that uses rope, chains, or wires to keep anyone out of areas where they could fall. Of course, these areas must be properly designated with signs and lines marked with high visibility material that are easy to see. When control lines are used, they must be erected not less than 6 feet but no more than 25 feet from the unprotected or leading edge. There are exceptions to this rule when erecting precast concrete members. If you're using this system, make sure you follow the rules and warnings. Next, a safety monitoring system and competent person is another way to prevent falls. Let's examine the definition of a competent person. A competent person is one who is capable of identifying existing and predictable workplace hazards in the surrounding or working conditions which are unsanitary, hazardous, or dangerous to employees, and who has the authority to take prompt corrective measures to eliminate them. You must have a competent person designated as a safety monitor, and that person's job is to actively patrol the work area and warn others of any possible danger. This is a full-time job, and the monitor must be able to recognize fall hazards and cannot perform other work duties. The safety monitor is a full-time job while employees are exposed. Another option is a fall protection plan. This should be used only when all else fails, in situations where other options may not work. Your company will advise you when this option is used. What type of training and documentation is required? The employer is required to provide a training program for each employee who might be exposed to fall hazards. The program allows each employee to recognize the hazards of falling and shall train each employee in the procedures to be followed in order to minimize the hazard. A competent person qualified in fall protection shall explain the nature of all hazards in the work area, the correct procedures for erecting, maintaining, disassembling, and inspecting the fall protection systems to be used, and the use and operation of guardrail systems, personal fall arrest systems, safety net systems, warning line systems, safety monitoring systems, controlled access zones, and other protection to be used. Employees must be trained in their specific roles when using the safety monitoring system and the limitations on the use of mechanical equipment during the performance of roofing work on low-sloped roofs. Employees must be trained in the correct procedures for the handling and storage of equipment and materials and the erection of overhead protection and the role of employees in fall protection plans and the OSHA standards pertaining to fall protection. A written certification record must be completed with the name or other identity of the employee trained, the date of the training, and the signature of the person who conducted the training or the signature of the employer. Retraining is required when the employer has reason to believe that any affected employee who has already been trained does not have the understanding and skill required. The employer must retrain that employee. Retraining is also required when changes in the workplace render the previous training obsolete or changes in the types of fall protection systems or equipment to be used render previous training obsolete. In other words, employees must be kept aware of proper fall protection, OSHA standards, fall protection equipment, and everything necessary to prevent falls. It's an important responsibility, and this training program has provided the majority of information you need to help prevent falls. However, more information will be provided by your trainer, supervisor, or company to make sure all proper training has been conducted. This is only an awareness of fall protection. It's up to you to make sure you understand fall protection, proper equipment, signs, signals, rules, and standards to prevent falls. If you have any questions, be sure to ask your trainer or supervisor because your safety is much too important to leave any questions unanswered. As a review, let's take a look at when you need fall protection. Fall protection is required on unprotected or leading edges where the height is 6 or more feet above the lower surface. You can choose to use a guardrail system, fall arrest systems, safety nets, safety monitoring systems, or controlled access zones. Where there are holes where people can fall through, guardrails and covers can be used. On ramps, walkways, and runways, guardrail fall protection should be used. When working on reinforcing steel and other vertical surfaces, including formwork, personal fall arrest systems, safety nets, or position devices such as a body belt should be used. For hand bricklaying, guardrails, safety nets, or personal fall arrest systems should be used. On low-sloped or steep roofs, controlled access zones may offer proper fall protection. Precast concrete erections use guardrails, safety nets, personal fall arrest systems, or a fall protection plan. For excavation fall protection, you can use barricades, fences, or guardrails. Wall openings require guardrails, safety nets, or personal fall arrest systems. Fall protection means many things. How about people working overhead where tools or materials can fall to people working below? Generally, that's why toe boards and hard hats are required on construction sites. The same applies for powered lifts, toe boards, and conscientious workers making an effort not to let anything fall below. What happens if someone does fall and injures themselves? Do you have a plan and understand your company's rescue plan? If a fall occurs, a fall arrest system will work, but how do you retrieve the person? You may need a crane or hoist. If the injured person is near a bridge, you may need traffic control and signals, as well as some method of attaching a rescue rope to the individual. Quickly, let's retrieve a person who has fallen. First, determine the extent of any injuries and, if required, get medical help before moving the victim. If there are no serious injuries requiring medical attention, let's use a crane and recovery pole to rescue the worker. To use the recovery pole, attach one end of an anchor sling to a carabiner and attach that carabiner to the hoist line hook. Place a carabiner through the other end. Lower the hoist line with the recovery pole down to the fallen worker and hook the carabiner through the D-ring of the body harness. It's easier to attach the line from an angle rather than from straight above. Twist the pole and pull to lock the carabiner onto the D-ring. After making sure the fallen worker is secure on the hoist, cut or disconnect the original lanyard. Now raise the person to safety. Understanding the basics of a proper rescue and rescue equipment can reduce injuries. It's an important part of safety.